If you're hearing this in your Rolls Royce, then Donald Trump's tax plan is for you.
You're rich as hell. We're going to give you a tax cut?
But for everyone else, there's Kamala Harris's plan.
Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut.
Because that guy in the Ferrari doesn't need another break. But Kamala Harris knows you sure could use one. Paid for by FFPAC, ffpac.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hello, everybody. I am Eric J. Brown, and welcome to YAOK, the greatest YA podcast on the Eastern Seaboard, probably ever. I'm here with my beautiful, wonderful, lovely co-host, Alyssa. Alyssa, say hello. No, we can't hear you, but I could keep talking if we want. So let's talk about me. My name is Eric. I'm an Aries. I am 37 years old, and I have always wondered what happened to sensibility, something Paperboys.
Oh,
Paperboys and something on TV.
Oh wait, poison. No, poison.
No.
Sense. No. What are we
It's
singing?
the Full House theme. Come on.
Oh.
Predictability. That's what it was. It was predictability.
Oh, I didn't know
All
what
right.
we were singing. Okay, hi, I'm back.
Anyway, now that you're back, Alyssa, say hi.
Hello, welcome back to YAOK. Sorry for being a hot mess. I accidentally unplugged my microphone right as we started recording.
I think it was actually the dogs did it. Like, it was when you went to the bathroom just now. I saw
You
one
saw
jump
Bonnie's
down,
little paw
and it
just
was,
pulling it out. The milkman, the paperboy, the evening TV. There you go.
like what we were watching that on TGIF, so the evening TV was already there. What is
We were there. We had arrived.
that song? Just doesn't make sense. Anyway,
How did you get there in my absence?
I don't remember. I panicked and I just kind of blacked out. So
Oh my God. How are you today? How are we doing?
clearly
We're both on the struggle
it's a
bus.
strange day. It's
Yeah.
a strange day today.
We're both
But-
on the struggle bus a little bit today. Eric has a headache. I'm a little eepy. It's time. I think we both need a nap.
Oh, we can't do these 2 podcast recordings in one day, double headers anymore.
I know.
We're just getting old.
We are very. I know. Next time I come to record, you're going to see me with a little walker with tennis balls on the bottom.
I'm gonna have just a neck brace. No reason. Just
No
a
reason.
neck brace.
Just extra support.
Yeah.
Too
I
tired
want
to
to
hold
look
my
like
head up.
Ernest in his like old lady look, like
Beautiful.
like that.
I think you would. I think that would suit you. And we're very lucky that we have such wonderful guests like Jessica on the podcast because she is so interesting and has such an interesting writing background, and that is what like pushed me through being able to do
I know.
2
I
in
was
a
just gonna
day.
say
I was
we
like,
have Jessica Mary Best today, and I like leading up to recording. I was just like, oh man, I'm tired.
yeah,
I'm getting a headache. But it's like as soon as we started talking with her, immediately
yeah,
everything
same.
was fine. And then
And then the
as
second,
soon as we came back to like do the intro outro, I was just like, oh, I'm tired now.
yeah, she left. She was like, "Bye, guys," and my entire brain battery went, and it was gone.
Oh,
But-
man.
You guys got the best of our brain power in the episode with Jessica, and we talked about Okay, so Jessica is extremely interesting because not only has she written a YA book, and it's called Stars Hide Your Fires, but she also has written podcast shows, and they're like,
Fiction podcast.
yeah. So interesting. So we talk a little bit about the both of them. And I am going to start one of her podcasts. I think I'm going to start The Strange Case of Starship Iris. Although Unwell, a Midwestern Gothic mystery also sounds
that one
awesome.
sounds up my alley. I'll start that
Right?
one. You start Iris, and then
Okay.
we'll just compare notes, and then after we'll swap.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good idea. But we won't be finishing it by the time we do the outro.
Outro.
God.
You know what? Start
Enjoy the episode.
5 long years, our lives like magnetic fields. You are my universe. You are my universe, and I'm just a planet.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having
so
me.
excited to have you here. How are you today?
I'm good. It's just starting to be kind of autumny. It's still like 85 degrees, but I'm ready to get out of the dog days of summer. So,
I can't wait. I saw like one crunchy leaf on the ground, and I was like, a single tear rolled down my cheek. I was like, we're finally almost done with this.
we made it.
I can't. The summer is not my season either, so I'm very much looking forward to it being over.
Yeah, it was like 96 degrees here.
Gosh.
And
96 is a lot.
It doesn't feel like a temperature that humans were designed to be at.
I always say that type of temperature is my version of a snowstorm. Like that is inclement weather. I'm not going outside.
Yes.
I have
It's
no
not
reason.
safe.
Exactly. It's not safe. I have no reason. I will collapse.
Yeah.
It's not
I
gonna
barely
happen.
go outside when it's temperate. Why would I go out when it's humid and hot? Ugh. It's actually kind of been cold here. I mean, I'm like an hour south, 2 hours south of Alyssa, but like, I think it's been kind of chilly the last few. Yeah. I mean, not like during the day. During the day, it's been in the high 80s, but I'm inside all day writing during the day. So, but like when I take out my dog in the morning to walk and at an evening, it's like the temperature has changed so much. I'm like, oh, it's so nice.
Yeah, it gets nippy. It's nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's wonderful. But we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here
I was just going to say that.
About Jessica's book, Stars Hide Your Fire. So this is your first book, right? Or your first YA or your first book?
This is my first like published book. Yeah.
But you do lots of other writing though. Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
You write podcasts, so this is not even your first podcast, right?
It's very true. Yeah.
Tell us about your podcast first. I'm interested to hear about it.
Yeah. So I have a couple of them. The first podcast that I made is called The Strange Case of Starship Iris. And it is a sci-fi show about a group of weirdos in a ship on the edge of known space, having adventures, sometimes falling in love, being friends. And yeah, it's a lot of fun I'm working on the 3rd and final season right now.
Love it.
It is just absolutely a joy to work on.
Yeah.
I also have a kind of a YA podcast, fiction podcast called Keep It Steady, which is a mid-aughts fake dating rom-com about how the personal is political.
Okay, love it.
Yeah, and that is kind of like the weird younger child of all my podcasts are my babies, but Keep It Steady is like my scrappy younger child that I'm always kind of rooting for. And then I also write for, I wrote for Unwell, a Midwestern Gothic mystery, which is, as it sounds, a Midwestern Gothic mystery. And that has 5 seasons and it's complete. I was one of 4 writers on that, and that was just the best people to work with. And then I am a staff writer on World Gone Wrong, which is set in a world where every paranormal, supernatural thing that you've ever seen in X-Files or Supernatural is kind of all happening at once. And the format is, it's a chat podcast between 2 friends who are just kind of unpacking like, okay, so there's werewolves now. Good to know.
Oh my goodness.
And then the next episode is like, well, there's an extra hour in the day now. Yeah. And we all have to just contend with what that means. It's very
Would that be a good or a bad thing? For an
really
extra
depends.
hour in the day.
It really depends. I mean, if you are a salaried worker, it kind of sucks. but
Because you know capitalism is going to turn that into, oh, that's an extra hour you can work.
yes,
Right.
Yes.
We need 9-hour days now.
That's a big part of the episode. Yeah.
Oh my god, I would die. That's so funny. Wow, so you have such a interesting path to writing. How did you get into writing podcast shows? That's so interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, I loved fiction podcasts. Well, my first love was This American Life in high school. I was just like, there was one summer where I had just moved to a new town and I didn't know anybody. So the whole summer I just stayed inside in my pajamas and listened to shotgunned all of This American Life. There were like 10 seasons of it at the time. And I just listened to the whole thing instead of having interests or friends. And that kind of led naturally into other podcasts and then fiction podcasts. And then I met a group of people on Tumblr where we were all listening to the same couple of fiction podcasts. And we just started talking about how we all had experience writing and telling stories and stuff. And it just kind of reached a point where we were like, wait, why aren't we doing this? Like,
right.
One of the shows that we were listening to was The Bright Sessions, which was executive produced and written and also directed, and I think also she acted in it as well, by Lauren Shippen, who like it's a great show, but she was like just a person who decided to make a show with her friends, and it really kind of demystified the conception of what it would take to make a show. It was like, oh, like we should just kind of be punk rock and figure out how to make this. And it was very like mid-20s, like let's just try about like tons of energy. And I had no idea what I was doing at the beginning of it. I was like, I can direct. I wrote it. I understand it. I was not good at directing. Very quickly handed that over to other people who were much better at it.
Yeah.
But I think my saving grace was that I am pretty good at casting. And so the actors from the beginning were just like really, really excellent, really understood the material, really understood their characters. And Starship Iris is a very like ensemble heavy show. And so that really helped us out, especially in the beginning.
That is so cool. And I love that this really just came from you listening to someone else and being so inspired and being like, we can totally do this.
Yeah.
And just pulling it all together. And I would imagine that writing for a podcast show is a really unique challenge because you have to, similar like you would for a book, you would have to really be descriptive because people are obviously not seeing it, but you have the benefit of being able to be like kind of playful with sound and the different actors that you have there. So there's a really fun balance, I'm sure, that you have to find with that.
Yes, absolutely. It's also a challenge because when you're writing a story, it's like, okay, you can get pretty close to the finished result after running it by like a couple of people. But when you're writing a podcast, you're writing an ingredient. You're writing one part of what this experience is going to be. And you really need to be able to find people that you can trust to handle the acting, the directing, the sound design, just cutting it all together. And there's so many creative decisions that just go into how do we layer the sounds? How do we make this sound like two people are actually in the room having a conversation together? Yeah, I would like write a script and I would read it out loud to myself in my room. My poor neighbors, but you know, that's just life in the big city. I reached a point where I was like, I have no perspective on this anymore. I think this is very common when you're writing anything. Like you hit a wall where you're like, these words are barely words to me.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so I called a bunch of my friends together and we would do table reads in my living room. And we would get a bunch of food. Yes, it was an absolute ball. We would drink some wine, and
I love it.
And choose characters and go around. And I had one friend like kind of trying to do the sound effects. And those early episodes, like my friends were instrumental in noticing things and fixing things. Yeah, just giving me the confidence to be like, okay, if I address the issues that my friends raised, I think that I can put this out there and it might be able to stand up.
Yeah. Wow, what a fun process. And
So
I
if
love that it's
there's-
sort of like you did it as a group. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys all kind of just figured it out as you went along. What would you, for anybody listening that might want to do, like, especially fiction podcasts, are there any like interesting mistakes that you made that you learned from and you're like, oh, you know what? Now I know this is how I'm doing it from now on that somebody else could possibly avoid.
Yeah. To quote Sufjan Stevens, I made a lot of mistakes. I think the big thing that I had to repeatedly learn was that you really have to have the script of the entire season written before you start making the show. Because I would always get really impatient, and I would have like half the scripts and I would be like, okay, this is like basically enough to go on. And it locks you into things that like later on in later scripts become an issue. It makes it harder to have like a coherent arc all the way through. It's very stressful in terms of production. My general advice is like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Because I reached a point when I was making the first season, I was about halfway through with it. And I was doing everything. I was directing and I was not good at directing. And I was very aware that I was not good at directing. It was just so overwhelming. And, wearing all these hats that I had never worn before. I was back at my parents' house for my grandma's funeral. And I just remember laying face on my bed and just crying. And it wasn't even, I hadn't even processed my grandma's departure. It was just like, I don't know how to do this thing. And I wound up asking Margaret and Phoebe, who are two members of the original group of people where we were all going to make shows. We had formed a podcast network called Procyon Podcast Network. And I very awkwardly was like, hey, do you guys mind if I can pay you a tiny bit? And I can't.
Yeah.
And they were willing to jump in, and they did such a better job than I would have done. And it was really frightening to ask for that kind of help, but it really kind of saved the first season of the show.
I had someone tell me once that you should sell your strengths and hire your weaknesses.
Ooh, yeah.
I think about that all the time. And I feel like that's kind of what you did. You hired out the things that you needed the extra support in.
Yeah.
I like
Which
that.
is the way to go. Yeah.
And I feel like it's hard to even, like, when you're, especially for writing, if you have this vision in your head and you're like, okay, well, this is it. And I need to do it because this is how it has to be. But then I feel like it might also be kind of freeing to kind of turn the reins over to somebody else and see their vision and see if they can kind of either make yours better or even just kind of like meet halfway where you're like, oh, this is something new. I like that.
Yeah. The collaboration aspect is really exciting and fun. There's also, when you're designing audio, there's a little bit of collaboration with the audience almost. Because, for instance, in Starship Iris, there is a race of aliens who are purple and vaguely humanoid. Humanoid enough that it's not weird that one of the characters who's a human is dating a character who's an alien. Which everybody draws that line in a different place, and I love that.
Listen, as soon as I heard about Ice Planet Barbarians, I was like, sure, go for it. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Whatever you want. I'm not going to yuck anyone's yums.
Yeah. But the only canonical description of them really is that they're purple, and people have drawn fan art of these characters.
Oh no.
And it's so fun. Like seeing, it's great. It's a joy. Seeing how they have interpreted Bry, who plays the main alien Krush. Like, they have interpreted Bry's voice and purple, and they've just run with it.
Love it.
And they come up with stuff that I would never have come up with. And yeah, there's like a certain amount of trust that goes into writing I think there's a little bit of trust that goes into writing any fiction, where you're like, you have to believe that the people reading it are going to engage with it. And yeah, I think there's another level of trust in making audio-based storytelling of like, if I make these sound effects, then they will get some picture in their head that will hopefully be cool for them.
Right. Yeah, you're wanting them to like really buy in and be sold on the fantasy that you're giving to them at that time.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love fan art too. Anytime somebody like tags me in like fan art of like my books, I always get so excited. It's so fun. It's great seeing somebody else be like, okay, well, here's this world that I've read about or listened to, and then here is what I think, like my brain's kind of translation of it. Mm-hmm. It's so cool. Absolutely. Do you have has anybody written any fanfic?
Yes.
Of your book?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I not grew up, but like I started writing fiction as an adult because I was writing fan fiction. Yeah. I had majored in creative writing, and then like I got a marketing job out of college. Well, not directly out of college, but like that was my first like real job. Was in marketing, and I was like, I guess I will like hang up my fiction writing hat, and then in my like mid-20s started writing fan fiction. And so the fact that people are writing fan fiction for this is like crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, I have not read it.
Yeah, I know. There's like, some of mine I haven't read.
Like legal stuff where you shouldn't. But
wait, why do you not want to read the fanfic? Because I don't have fan. I mean, if anyone made fanfic about me, I definitely would not read it.
Yeah.
But I also, it's about me it would be about me as a person, where it's about your guys' characters. So I'm curious why you don't want to read. Because
you don't want to accidentally take something from one of their stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why I haven't read mine. But now, I mean, I don't know, because it's for the first book. So now that the sequel's out, and I'm thinking that there's not going to be any more, I could probably read it. But then I'm nervous. Like, what if I do come up with some idea in the future, and then all of a sudden it's like 5 years later, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna write this, and then I find out it's just my subconscious that like read a fan fiction and like kind of played with that and took an idea and then kind of just built on it.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. I feel bad. So I always direct people to look at my fan fiction. So.
Yeah, and report back.
Yeah.
I always think when people do things like that, like fan art or fanfic or any of that, I think it's such a special experience to just consider how someone really spent a portion of their day doing that. Like, wow, you really enjoy a part of what I do so much that when you were like, I am going to engage in this creative outlet that I love so much, and I'm going to do it dedicated to this story. That is so cool.
Yeah.
It really is. And then the pipeline for writers who start off writing fan fiction and then become like published authors is so deep. Like there's even like Allie Hazelwood started as a fanfic writer, and she's like one of the biggest romance novelists now. And there's like so many other people. I think Cassandra Clare even did fanfic at first before she did like the Mortal Instruments and everything.
I think Twilight was fanfic. I think it was a fanfic of 50 Shades of Grey, maybe?
No. 50 Shades of Grey was fanfic of Twilight.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
But I think Twilight was heavily influenced by, I want to say, the Vampire Diaries.
That makes sense. Wait, yeah. Twilight was
My Chemical Romance fanfiction?
Wait.
Is that what MCR means? My Chemical Romance?
It is. Yeah. I think that she was inspired by My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical Romance? I'm not seeing that vision come to life.
No.
So wait, does she imagine Edward to look like Gerard?
Oh my God. They did not nail it, if that's the case.
Ooh.
Yes, Eric. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe that.
All right, I'm doing a rare thing.
Oh, welcome producer Matt to the stage.
So because I love this. There's this like, you know how like TikTok goes crazy with like fan theories and whatever. There's this whole timeline where if September 11th didn't happen, we wouldn't get 50 Shades of Grey. because Gerard Way was inspired to form My Chemical Romance when he watched September 11th happen on a boat heading back to work in New York. And then Stephanie Meyer's Twilight started off as My Chemical Romance fan fiction, which is why so much of the soundtracks are like pop punk bands. She kept reaching out to NCR and they kept saying no every movie. And then 50 Shades of
Wow.
Grey is Twilight fan fiction. So if not for September 11th, we wouldn't have 50 Shades of Grey.
Wow.
And he just leaves. And just leaves
That
with
was
that.
an excellent. Oh, that's wild.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hey, it's me, the Quenchies. I'm that late afternoon craving you just can't shake. Wait, what's that? Welch's Grape Aid? No! Made with real fruit and no added sugar, nothing answers the call of the Quenchies like Grape Aid. Got the Quenchies? Grab a Grape Aid in your juice aisle.
Hey, Mark, I was listening to Paramore the other day, and it really made me think about the amygdala and the limbic system.
You just made those words up, didn't you?
What, Paramore?
We're the Nevermind the Music podcast, where one musician
and one psychologist
talk songwriting and the mind, one song at a time.
We'll hear everything from Green Day and Outkast
to Stevie Wonder and Dua Lipa.
And we mostly try to stay on topic.
Except for when we don't want to.
Nevermind the Music, wherever you get your podcasts.
I think now is when we pivot to talking about Stars Hide Your Fires.
Sure, sounds good.
I was just thinking about how like now all this fanfic that you guys have, one day you're going to be watching like some crazy teen romance sci-fi hit and be like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
That character's a little
off a
familiar.
fanfic of mine.
Be able to draw it back to your stories. Anyways.
That would be kind of fun, actually.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that.
You never know. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yes.
So,
moving
Jessica,
along.
can you give us a pitch of Stars Hide Your Fires?
Stars Hide Your Fires is a book about a jaded, cynical thief who lives on a small, dusty moon and decides that she is going to do one last big heist at the Emperor's ball on a space station out in the reaches of space. And she is going to infiltrate this ball and steal from the absurdly rich and privileged. She makes it in. She gets to the ball. She is framed for the murder of the emperor, and she and a mysterious stranger have to solve this mystery in this. It's kind of a locked room, but in space.
Ooh.
Scenario.
I love it. I love like just the idea of like a murder mystery in space, like
Space is
a
already
sci-fi
so
version of
creepy.
Knives Out or Glass Onion or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think also because you're already in like the high stakes, like high adrenaline of a murder mystery, like just trying to figure out, even if it's like sort of the pacing is not that you feel that like stress of you're trying to figure out who done it. But then like the stress of and anxiety, at least for me, of being in space added to all of that adds like such a cool layer to it.
It was a lot of fun to write.
Is this does it take place in the same universe as like Starship Iris, or are they two totally different things?
I have at this point, I have 3 separate unrelated sci-fi universes going on. And maybe someday I'll put some kind of Easter egg in, but so far they are all different. Stars Hide Your Fires takes place in a universe in which there was never Earth.
That's so
I feel like you can make like a 4th universe that's like the multiverse thing, and then all of a sudden bring them all together that way.
They can all talk to each other.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I always am so impressed by people's ability to build worlds like that. Like that's something that I've talked about on this podcast before too, because the amount of like organization I feel like to keep this world that you created and like the rules of the universe that you created all sort of in line is like kind of masterful to me. So was there any sort of process that you had in doing that? I mean, and you were creating sci-fi universes for some of the podcasts as well, but I'm curious what that experience is like.
So like Stars Hide Your Fires, a lot of the names are like classical, like ancient Greek kinds of names. So it has that flavor to it, which was fun because I was a Greek mythology nerd in middle school.
Oh, cool.
I spent a fair bit of effort trying to think of swear words for, priorities, right? What are the sci-fi swear words? And it brings you back to like, well, what do we use swears for? Like where do they come from? And so one of the swears, and it's not like the equivalent of the F-bomb or anything, but one of the swears is void. Like void take you.
Yeah.
Because it's like the scariest thing there is if you're in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. I was trying to sell my editor on peduncle as a swear word, which I initially meant it to because I looked up what the stem of a skin tag is called because I was like, I don't know, skin tags are like kind of like not a thing that's talked about, and so it's like a little bit of the like body taboo stuff. And the word was peduncle, and I was like, great, doing this, definitely. And then I found out, I found out that it just means stem.
Oh.
And my editor was like, this is a fantasy swear word. This is like, if you ever write like a sword and sorcery book, you can have people calling them peduncle. But like the world that we're trying to sell here needs to be like, the swears are a little bit like sleeker.
Okay.
And my editor is like generally right. So
file that away for when you're doing the fantasy stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. I would imagine that creating the swear words, I was going to say swear words, the swear words would be like, I never even thought about that being like a fun part of the process. And I feel like that had to be the most fun.
It was a good time. Yeah.
That's so great. That's so
I
great.
feel like that's what you get your friends around a table for, drink a lot of wine, and then just start going, all right, well, what are we going to call things?
Yeah.
This is how you could test your friends and see if they read the book. You're going to write your made up swear word on an index card, and you have to they have to drunkenly explain to you how they would use that word.
Oh, that is fun, and also
could break up friendships.
Heartbreaking. Don't do it.
Maybe for the next book.
Yeah.
But so how was the experience of writing Stars Hide Your Fires different from the other kinds of writing that you've done?
It was interesting writing a piece of fiction that only has to be a book. And that also meant that I had to describe how things look, which is not a thing that, like, I had to describe characters, how they look, which is not a thing that you really have to do in audio drama. It's not really a thing you have to do in fan fiction because, like, everybody knows how the characters look. Yeah, at some point my editor came to me and was like, you never say what the main character looks like. And I was like, yeah. I guess I should give audiences like some picture in their heads. I can't just say she's purple because she's not.
Right.
Creating like a world that is complete by itself was an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm a little bit the same with describing my characters. I tried to just say, this is the color of hair, this is the color of the skin, this is the color of their eyes, this is how tall they are, that's it.
Yeah.
Like their body type. Just because I don't want to create this image and force other people be like, this is what this person looks like and there is no difference.
Yeah.
So that like everybody can pretty much figure out, if you kind of leave it nebulous, everybody else can figure it out and they can cast whoever they want in their head if they're doing like people or some of their friends or themselves, whatever they want. But I just I've always been on the fence about how much to describe a person, and I'm glad that I'm not the only one, actually.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I don't think we need to describe everybody. I think anybody should be able to put whoever into each individual storyline.
Yeah.
But then I understand that there are some people who just, I still get emails all the time saying, who is who on this cover? And I'm like, well, I did describe at least their hair, so you can tell.
Work it out.
So.
Yeah. Context, please.
I like when they give very specific descriptions, because I feel like otherwise I am imagining like sort of an amorphous blob. But then that kind of helps, because if that story evolves into something that is on screen somewhere, I have no expectations for what that person is going to look like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like there have been instances of fans being like very up in arms about casting that doesn't quite fit the specific picture that they had. And
yeah. I like that. I like it when they like change it and make it a new character almost. And it's like, it's something different. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's see where the story goes, like with this person looking like that instead.
Yeah.
I know they did that with the Hunger Games, and I know it was a lot of people were pissed off because Rue was cast as a Black actress, and I was like, she was Black in the books. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
it's not ambiguous.
There's one line. There's like one line where they're like, "Oh, here she describes that she has dark skin or like light brown skin or something." Yeah. And I was like, it's right there. It's not like yes, it's not like she just said, she like kind of wrote around it trying to like be ambiguous. She said that she was Black, and people got pissed off, and I was like, oh, okay, well, like, you're just racist.
Yeah, people were like, I can't get emotionally invested in this character, and it's like, this is a you problem. You need to make it yourself.
Right, exactly. You have unfortunately told on yourself what is going on.
Yeah,
that was the thing with Vampire Diaries too. Apparently, in the books, Elena is blonde, and Elena I know. Throw the whole series away. How dare they?
Toss it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think keeping especially when the description of the character doesn't actually matter that much to who the person is, it kind of is nice to shift the focus away from how they look.
Yeah.
But I would imagine
also like if there's like a TV show or a movie adaptation where they even change the race of the main character, I like, because that can even like make like tiny alterations in the story that have big consequences, and it can change the whole story. That like the book is like this, and then it could create this whole other kind of idea when it's on a movie, and it's something new and exciting, and it's not just a retelling of the book that you pictured in your head. It's something new, and other people have their hands in. Which
Can I go on a tangent about this?
Yes.
Go. Yes.
Okay.
This is a safe space.
Awesome. So when I was in high school, I was in a youth theater production of Les Miserables. And I was like random prostitute number 4. That's not important.
Wait, you're the second random prostitute that we've had on this show.
I did Les Mis my freshman year of high school, and I was a prostitute number 3.
That's wild.
And then we had Brian Kennedy on, and he was random Nazi in The Sound of Music. And he was just in the audience looking for the Von Trapps.
Criminals all around.
So I was in this production, and we had a guy playing Jean Valjean, and then he dropped out at the last minute to go be in Oklahoma instead, and I'm still a little bit bitter about it.
Wow.
Terrible choice.
Yeah, absolute total downgrade. But so this other kid who hadn't even initially tried out because his family was going to be moving, his best friend played Fantine and was like, you should give this a shot. Like, we could make this, you could make this work. And so he tried out, and he was absolutely incredible, just spellbindingly good. He was also the only Black person in the entire cast.
Wow.
And there are some scenes in Les Mis that, if you add that component to it, are like so on the nose.
Really?
And like for listeners who might not know, Les Miserables opens with the main character, Jean Valjean, is on a tie gang, and he has been thrown into prison for stealing a loaf of bread to try to save the life of his sister and his sister's child. And so he's like on this tie gang and like being horribly maltreated. He gets a ticket of leave, which means he can go kind of be in society, but like on like a work program. And like he gets his yellow ticket of leave, and he's like, all right, this is great. I'm free. I can rejoin society. And everyone's like, you're a criminal. We don't trust you. We don't like you. Leave.
Yeah.
We're not going to give you work. And like, oh man, it was
the
like,
layers.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable, but in a really like he was phenomenal, and it was a really interesting. It created a really interesting reinterpretation of the lyrics. It also means that then later on in the story, when there is Javert, the police officer, is like trying to chase down Jean Valjean and like can't find him, and like meets Jean Valjean, but Jean Valjean is wearing a hat, and so Javert can like not recognize him. The fact that like in our production, it's like, Javert, you are looking for the one black man in Paris. Like, get it together.
That's so funny.
It really colored how I see
Javert's
that.
so racist. He thinks every black man is a different, or the same black man that he keeps meeting is a different black man every single time.
I love it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I when I think about the like layers that are present there, I remember when we did Les Mis at my high school, a lot of the adults, like the parents of the kids involved, were kind of like, wow, that's a heavy show, no? And I'm like, me getting cast as prostitute 3, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's fine. But to have that added layer of like the racial element, I'm surprised that your school was, and I'm glad that they did, but it's like very bold of them to have done the play that way, or musical.
It was not a school musical. It was like a local community youth theater program. I was really fortunate to be close enough to participate in it because they were incredible, and they had shockingly high production values. I have no idea what their funding model was, actually. My grandpa saw the show, and his takeaway was, I can't believe that you would show this to high schoolers, because Javert's suicide, he was like, this is glamorizing suicide. And I was like, who are the high schoolers who watch Les Miserables and their takeaway is like, oh, Javert, he's the cool one. He's the one I want to.
Exactly. And also like the whole show is very dark and very sad. I don't think any part of that is glamorized in any way.
No.
It's like the whole thing is pretty devoid of glamour, I would say.
Yeah.
That was the
that's
year.
Part of like why I don't think the movie works very well is because they remove all of the like spectacle from a musical, and they do like the live singing and stuff to make it that like kind of bleak feeling thing. And I was like, I mean, it kind of just didn't work, but
no.
It's a shame.
I'm so glad that we both have special Les Mis experiences.
Yeah.
I want a Les Mis experience. Mine is just that movie.
Yeah, that's not so
I never
special.
saw the actual show, like a live version of the show.
I don't think I've seen it professionally done.
I feel like if I'm going to go see it, I have to like see it on Broadway during a revival when it's like an actual budget and singers and like it's going to make
because it is a spectacle show.
Yeah. I mean, even the book was like a spectacle. It's like 1,000 pages. I mean, it's an epic. Insane. It's supposed to be epic and feel epic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But anyways, speaking of books, I want to get back to yours. Sure. So when did Stars Hide Your Eyes come out? Hide your eyes, hide your fires. I don't have my glasses
So
on.
I kept saying hide your eyes too, and I don't know why. Is there a saying that the title comes from? Because in my mind, I just keep saying hide your eyes, and I don't know why.
Stars Hide Your Fires is a Macbeth quote.
Okay. That's probably like one of the Shakespeare ones I know the least, but I've seen the most somehow.
That's interesting.
Just because I've seen like like all the different kind of iterations of it.
Yeah, I feel like I have mistyped it as Stars Hide Your Fries before, which would be a different book also.
Stars hide your fries. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I think so. It's about this person going to an award show and they aren't allowed to eat, so they get sewn into their dress, and she has fries, and that's what it is.
That I wrote a main character who is totally capable of doing that. Yeah, to answer your original question, it came out not the previous July, but the July of 2023.
Got it. Okay. So do you think you're going to write more YA? Is that in the cards
Yes.
for you?
Yes. I am working on a second book right now. It is not a follow-up to Stars Hide Your Fires. It is also a sci-fi kind of genre-y novel with a sapphic romance, but
love it.
Separate from the first one.
So what kind of research do you do for your sci-fi novels, if any? Because it's okay if you don't, but I'm like, part of why I write so, like, I call it light sci-fi. It's like just the idea of this sci-fi element is there because I get nervous about being wrong about things and people being like, that's not real. And it's like, that's because it's fiction.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, at one point in an earlier draft of one of the scripts of Starship Iris, somebody had to come to me and be like, Jess, there's no friction in space. And I was like, ooh.
Right.
I do remember that. Now that you mentioned that, I do remember that from like high school physics. Like I had something about some line about like the aerodynamics of the ship in space, and they were like, this doesn't.
It's funny though, because I only recently learned that. Like not that there's no friction. I just, in my head, I never realized that without atmosphere, there is no aerodynamics. Like,
right.
I knew there wasn't an atmosphere. I just didn't get to that step.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we are so, like, on Earth, there's so much that you just take for granted being stationary on a planet. And yeah.
Yeah, we do take that for granted. We should be more grateful every day. That's going to be, I try to do gratefulness practices, and tomorrow morning mine is going to be, I'm happy about gravity and the atmosphere.
Gravity is great.
While we have it.
Have either of you seen The Expanse on Amazon?
No, what is that?
I've seen a couple episodes, and I really like it.
It is like, it's like Game of Thrones in space. That's like the easiest pitch for it. It's Earth has colonized the asteroid belt and Mars, and I think they're also working on like other like moons and stuff like that. But there's all of these different kind of things are coming together to like fight for control when this strange alien parasite basically shows up out of nowhere. It's really good, but the thing that I'm most impressed by it is I'm not sure if they have writers on staff or like scientists on staff, but they give everything that happens is basically they're trying to make it as realistic as possible. So they have people who are born and raised in the asteroid belt who, like, their muscle tone and their bone mass, their bone density is like smaller than those on Earth because there's no gravity. They have to wear gravity boots in order to travel around the space stations and stuff. On Mars, it's like all the people on Mars are stronger because they're, I think there's more gravity there. I forget what it is, but because of that, it's a huge military base, basically. It's really interesting.
This is
I loved
very
it.
well thought out.
Yeah.
It's really well thought out. And the books that it's based on, I think there's 9 books, and they're all about 600 pages long.
Dang. Yeah. I love intaking fiction where you can tell that the people who were writing it were like nerds of the thing.
Yeah. They were so in it.
Yeah.
I wish I could get to that. I wish I was smart enough to get to that, because I'll see stuff on The Expanse. One thing I never even thought of, they create like a hyperdrive kind of, but one thing they bring up is they have to like inject these drugs into you while you're in this hyperspace kind of thing. I don't think it's really called hyperspace, but it's like because the G force against you, even in space, is still there. And it like messes with your brain chemistry and your body and everything. And there's like a whole episode in the first or second season where they're talking about this guy that invented this. And like, it's just this one-off episode. about this guy who he dies because he invented this, and it's because he died and they found his ship. They were able to create these drugs to create deep space travel and stuff.
Wow.
It's fascinating. Again, I wish I was smart enough, because I was sitting there going, this episode's boring. What's the point of this? And then you get to the end, you're like, oh, I get it. It's explaining all of this. But we could have also just done that in like 3 sentences, I feel like.
Yeah.
Could have been an email.
Yeah, definitely. But I appreciate the effort. Anyway, it's a great show. You should watch it. It's finished. It's like 5
I should
seasons.
watch the rest of it. I've only seen a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And then they have Sharia Aghdashloo. She's the Iranian actress who has that like really, really deep, raspy voice.
Ooh.
I love her. She's like, she plays like a politician on Earth. She's incredible. So
I
good
love
in
it. That's so interesting. What an interesting concept. People are so creative. I feel like that woman on TikTok that's like, everyone's so creative, but I mean it.
She's
like
from Philly.
Yeah. Really?
Yes, I haven't run into her.
Yeah. I hope
Philly's
you do.
such a small city too.
I hope you do, because she cracks me up. Anyways, so what's coming up for you, Jessica, in like the near future? What are some projects you're working on?
So new book, which I am not going to like go into a bunch right now because it's like still kind of under wraps. I co-wrote a book with my dad. He actually, and it's not sci-fi. He wrote a book when I was in high school, and I, at like 15, was like, okay, Dad, I'm going to edit your book. And he was like, yeah, that makes sense. Which is wild, actually, now that I'm like kind of an adult, the idea of being like, okay, 15-year-old, your writing experience is like school essays, and you are going to really shape this book. But so I edited it at 15, and then it was like the first job I ever had. And it taught me so much about just like putting together sentences and like looking at a paragraph and being like, I know what this paragraph is trying to do. How can I take this apart and put it together again in a way where it can hopefully do that thing a little better? And because it was really fascinating, because my dad is a really creative guy and he's a really good storyteller. But he hadn't read a lot of novels when he decided to write a novel. He just came at it with a lot of confidence, which I love. But my mom and I had to explain to him, like, you shouldn't just say that these two characters had like a fun, bantery conversation. You need to actually like show it with dialogue.
I love it.
And like the first iteration of the like romantic interest, I was like, you need to give her a personality. And he was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And he came back and he was like, how about now? And all he had done different was give her glasses. And I was like, I have notes.
Yeah, I have
15,
notes.
but I have notes.
Add a ponytail.
yeah, please.
At a minimum.
That she can pull out later and actually she's gorgeous.
Yeah, exactly.
But so he and I worked on it a ton. It was like 140,000 words at one point, and now it's 89,400. Wow. Yeah, kind of reshaped it from the bottom up, and we got an agent for it. And so that is going to be out on submission.
That's awesome.
I can say it's fascinating because it was my dad's ideas behind it. And so it doesn't feel like
bragging.
Like, it is about a 18-year-old guy whose parents were famous Egyptologists who vanished when he was 5. And it's mostly about summers that he spends on his friend's farm in Indiana, his friend's parents' farm in Indiana. And one summer they get a job, and this is based on a true story that my dad actually did. They get a summer job working on the tie gang of a railroad that's going out of business, which is like not a job for 18-year-old boys.
Right.
It is like very hard labor, and like everyone around them are like ex-convicts, and they sign up for this, and then they're looking around and they're like, oh, what did we do? Because it's like back-breaking, scary labor that they're doing. But they're making $10 an hour, which minimum wage was $3. So they're like determined to stick it out because the friend wants to buy a motorcycle. But anyway, it is like kind of a mystery, kind of a coming of age, kind of a friendship story. There is a romance. The main character, the love interest, has a personality beyond glasses and a ponytail, which was very exciting for me. So that might be coming out at some point. We just finished reading it out loud because if there's one thing I took from my Starship Iris days, it's that you catch a lot of stuff when you read out loud.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I should start reading my stuff out loud. I still don't. I know it's true. I used to do, I would highlight an entire chapter of a book and then have the computer read it back to me.
Yeah.
And you do catch some things, but I still think, because it'll make you catch on weird words that it is pronouncing this correctly.
Sure.
And you'll catch like double words, but I still think it sounds better to hear another human being read it.
For sure.
When you do that.
For sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then I have another podcast that I want to make that is about a rock band who is touring the US, but actually what they're doing is solving paranormal problems.
Ooh.
I love that. Wait, there used to be a Disney Channel show that was like that, where this girl is called So Weird, and this girl's mom was a rock star.
Ooh.
And she was traveling around with her on her tour bus, and they would stop in small towns and solve like a paranormal thing.
I love it.
That.
It's really fun. I'm working on the third episode right now.
Love
I can't wait.
Yeah. And it's kind of a musical. It has plot important songs that I'm also writing. And
that's awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
That sounds great. You have such great things coming up. I'm so excited for you.
I'm excited. I was talking to someone who was like, so how are you going to, like, you just finished writing all of Starship Iris's last season. How are you going to like decompress and take a break and take some time for yourself?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not.
Good. That's healthy.
by jumping into several other projects happening at the same time.
Be a shark. Just keep swimming.
Yeah.
Exactly. You sleep when you're dead. That's what I always say. I love that. I'm so excited for you. And you have such great like diversity in the things that you create. So I feel like you'll always have really great stories to share and lots of really great ways to share them.
Thank you. Yeah. I really try to reflect the world around me in the kinds of characters that
That's awesome. Well, before we let you go, we always like to ask everyone what they are reading right now. So are you reading anything right now? And if you are, what is it?
You can also do podcasts if there's any like fiction podcasts that you want to like shout out or anything.
So I'm going to shout out, even though I finished it a while back, but I'm going to shout out Camlan, which is a fictional podcast. It is a post-apocalyptic Arthurian legends adventure show that is also kind of a ensemble cast who have a lot of like interesting relationships with each other and interesting feelings and stuff. It's really, really excellent. I highly recommend it. That was the last podcast that I listened to that really knocked me out. How good it was. As far as books go, I just picked up, I'm going to go get it. Wait, hang on one sec.
Okay. I like when people bring us the book.
Yeah.
So we can see it.
See the cover.
Yeah. I want to judge the book by its cover.
So I had never read any of Agatha Christie's, I'm going to say the name so wrong, Poirot books.
Yeah.
And I was at a used bookshop and they had
oh my God.
Cases. Why is
he? That's not even him.
What is
Who
going
is that
on?
be?
I need to know. And
I like how it also says now in paperback, which means there's a hardcover somewhere with probably an even more fucked up cover.
Right.
So many questions. And hopefully there will be some answers inside.
I hope so. Oh my God. That is so funny. Wow.
I feel like
bizarre...
what could the answer be for a human's face on
it's worse than
body?
Because it's not a human's face. It's a puppet's face.
Oh, it's a ventriloquist dummy's face on a bee?
On a bee. On a giant bee. And
it reminds me of the Goosebumps book, or like Why I'm Afraid of Bees, I think.
Yeah.
And the kid gets turned into a bee. I actually liked that book. It was surprisingly good.
I remember as a child reading a series of interviews with different horror writers, and one of them was R.L. Stine, and they asked him, like, what inspires you to write horror? And he said, I write about what scared me as a kid. And I was like, there are hundreds of Goosebumps books. Were you like the most frightened child of anyone you've ever met? I mean, maybe. Like, I respect that, but
that's so good. Oh my God, that poor kid.
Egg monsters from Mars. He just hated eggs.
Just
Scrambled eggs, just roasted
staring
out.
at his breakfast plate and shuddering. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing
this was really fun.
so much with us. I'm excited. I want to check out your podcasts. Which one should I start with?
Ooh. I would say The Strange Case of Starship Iris. I think that the first episode is it almost works as a standalone story, although it's not. And if you like that, then you will like most of what I make, I think.
Okay. I'm excited to give it a shot. Yay.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be keeping an eye out for all of your next stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
When she asked me how far we can take it, I tell her we can take it across the entire universe. You are my universe, I'm just a planet.
So since we already did a outro where we talked about what we're reading with the other one that the other episode that we recorded today on the same day, even though people are listening to this in the future, separated by weeks.
Yes.
We haven't changed what we're reading. So unless, Alyssa, did you start Dark Harvest during the break, the 2-hour break that we had between episodes?
I did not. I did a coaching call, and then I shoved some food in my mouth, and I posted a TikTok.
Well, then we'll have to rely on our listeners sending us what they are listening to, and
what they're reading.
In the future, maybe what they're reading. In the future, maybe we can talk about. All right, let's end the episode. Anyway, go check out YAOK podcast on Instagram, and
we'll see you next time. Everyone, go take a nap. Everyone, including the listeners, we all deserve a nap. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next time.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.